Good morning, beloved. Mike coming to you here on Monday morning with a devotional thought for the youth group today and whomever else wants to take part in it. Trying to sort of refine the process of how I do this. I'm not comfortable, it's not natural for me, but I want to try. So I have my iPad here and I have my notes over here. If you see me going like that, that will be why. Braden's going to be making eggs here in the kitchen at some point in time, so that may add to the interest as well. Hey, I hope you guys had a chance Saturday or yesterday or today to watch Pastor Don's message for Easter from 1 Corinthians chapter 15. Excellent message. He had a part in there that he devoted specifically to teens, to youth, and so hope you get a chance to catch that. Want to direct you to a specific resource. Something that I think is critical for me is to recognize my limitations, which are vast. There's very little I'm really capable of in this. Other people do a way better job than I do on almost everything. A resource that I would direct you to today that came down, Tyler already sent a message through Remind. Thank you, brother. There's a resource from Southern Seminary. They do a thing like difficult questions, tough questions from the Bible. They've done dozens and dozens of them. I think close to 100. They had one from a professor, hi Braden, named Robert Plummer that was called Top 3 Mistakes When Studying the Bible. It's an 11.5-minute video that I would really encourage you to watch. It's not fluffy, you know, he gets into some pretty good content on it, but I think that it does address things that cause us to, when we do open our Bibles, which we all know we should be doing on a daily basis. Okay, I want to encourage you to do that. But when we do open our Bibles, to sometimes think, what am I doing? You know, just read a little bit? Do I just read a little bit? What do I do? Just read a little while, and then, should I write something down? What do I do with what I've read? Or do I just read it for the sake of reading it? First of all, that part is good. Yes, read it for the sake of reading it. But it's also good to consider what we should learn, what we should know since we've read it, kind of a deal. So that video I think is good. I would encourage you to take a few minutes that it requires to watch that. Here's what I want to start doing, guys. I want to encourage you to read through a specific text, all of us together, read through a specific text, and then write down a few notes about it. And then the next day, I will address that just for, these are going to be short videos. So just in, like, what do we read? What should we do? I decided let's read Paul's short epistles. And so let's begin with Galatians. So I want to encourage you today to read Galatians chapter 1. Paul is writing to Galatia was not a town, it was an area, it was a region. So he wrote this letter intending for it to be distributed in an area of what is today modern day Turkey. There were a number of churches there. Some things had come up in the church. Some issues had come up in the church. And so Paul wrote them this letter for it to be distributed and read widely. So read Galatians chapter 1 and just jot down a few notes. I want you to do a little bit of journaling as you read this. So, for example, just write down a little bit, a couple sentences, a synopsis, a summary of what you think the chapter means, of what it meant to you. And don't try to be perfect. Don't try to be correct, like, oh my gosh, there's some kind of test involved here. Just write down what you think. Write down what you think it's about. Also, what questions does it raise for you? Galatians is an interesting book. It's an interesting, some of the stuff you can read and you can go, really? I can't believe this was going on, that Paul, of all people, would need to write about this. And when we get into Galatians chapter 2, you can be like, Peter, of all people, Peter has this going on? So what questions does it raise for you? And then another thing would be like, what application? What can you learn from it? what from this ancient text can we decide applies to us today? So it took me, I actually timed it. It took me 2 minutes and 32 seconds to read through Galatians chapter 1. All right. I did not read through it fast. There are a couple of names in there, a couple of words in there that you got to sort of piece through and figure out. But it's not a long read. So I would really encourage you, take a few minutes to read Galatians chapter 1 and take maybe 5 more minutes to journal, to write down what does it mean? What application does it have? What questions does it raise? And then we'll bring that up tomorrow and move on to the next one as well. Thanks, guys. Love you. Miss you. Hope you have a great day.